Would everybody, if you haven't already silenced your phone, we'll cut down on as many interruptions as we can. And I know you're excited to hear from Kenny. I am too. And with that, City Manager Kenny Martin, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. And I meant that for Dr. Wright. She's been a class act and a blessing to us. And I know Miss Phyllis is on here. She's also a former principal. So for our education system, that's what attracts most of these jobs and these businesses to our community. When you talk about education and go to the second wealthiest county in the state, and I think it's I think it's the best school system, but I think second when it comes to ratings. And you think about how far we've come, that's just phenomenal. My wife taught for about 40 years, so I have a big heart for education. So I just want to thank her personally, publicly, for everything she's done. And I know we're going to miss her, even though she'll still be here in some shape, form, or fashion. She's been a true pro, and so many good things have happened. But when you speak of education, you think of just the new Green Hill High School and what a blessing that's been to our county and, of course, our city. I know our police department's been working with them recently for some traffic concerns that's down there. And I think a lot of that's just people learning the new patterns of how to enter into the school, and that'll all get itself figured out. But that school is absolutely beautiful, and it's an awesome investment, not only in our county, but for our city. And we're awful proud to have it. And so thank you on that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how thankful I am for all the folks throughout the county that helped with yet another tragedy. If you think about the school system and all that they've dealt with COVID and tornadoes and windstorms and winter storms and then now flooding, we've had about everything that could be thrown at a county at us in the last probably 14 months. And you sit and think about how everybody responded to that. And none of that happens because of the city or the county, or in particular, it happens because of everybody getting involved. And when I came out with the most recent floods, I believe that was on a Sunday morning, Mount Juliet Road looked like the Colorado River, and all the debris that had washed up and all, we had all that cleaned up by the end of the day, just simply because we were trying to get back to normal. And so continue to pray and support those businesses once they open at Valley Center and other places like the City Center, and of course the Square in Lebanon, or any other place, including the homeowners, because that's a tough situation for them to be in. So we're doing everything we can on the city side to help those folks. But once those businesses open and you know who they are, please go out there and patronize them. They're going to need all the assistance that they can get. So, it's nice to talk about new businesses, and we're excited about that, but we wouldn't be where we're at without people like yourselves and also the businesses that have been here for a long, long time. So we'll continue to pray for them and help them every way we can. I want to give a shout out to Masters Landscaping. A lot of folks don't realize this, but Mr. Mike Pruitt, that's the owner of Masters Landscaping, goes to church at Joy Church. So if you ever notice a lot of the landscaping there at the church, he does that at no cost to himself. And he recently landscaped the clock tower here in Mount Juliet that's on the corner of East Division and Mount Juliet Road at no cost to the city or the taxpayers. And he did that just simply because he's that kind of guy and wants to do that. So I want to give a shout out to him and his team, because they put a lot of passion and hard work into that. Speaking of other expansions, the police expansion, everybody knows that's about a $6 million expansion. That came as a result of the tornado as well. They're going to make the evidence room and also the police dispatch hardened, so that if we ever did have another storm of that nature, the dispatchers and the evidence would be secure and safe. And of course, you have to keep the evidence safe simply because of pending cases. But most importantly, we want to keep our dispatchers safe, because they're the ones that have to work 24/7. So that's moving along through the design stage, and here real soon we hope to get that to bid, to get that addition constructed and built for not only the police department but for other people that use that facility. And
Kenny, what were you hoping? What do you expect the bids to come in on that?
Literally any time now, Mark. I mean,
no dollar wise.
About $6 million.
Okay.
For everything could be a tad less than that, but. And I want to thank Dr. Wright as well on this. Keep going back to Dr. Wright, but our police, not our police expansion, but our fire expansion, the new fire station down by the Green Hill High School, that wouldn't have come about without Dr. Wright partnering with the city of Mount Juliet, so that we could purchase that piece of land at a very fair price and construct a fire station. So what's exciting about the fire station is they not only have the fire trucks there, of course, they have emergency EMS, paramedics, technicians, things of that nature, that can help folks, because probably about 70% of the business that the fire department does, if not more, is actually for health related issues, not necessarily fires. And so it's going to be so nice to have that there. That's going to bid, and a contractor will be selected here real soon. So we appreciate everybody's patience. That's going to be a nice addition, not only to Mount Juliet and to the region, but also for the school there being so close to the high school. So has anybody got any questions about those two additions? Okay. And the other thing is, I'll just go into a list of businesses that are coming to Mount Juliet. Some of them are already started. The O'Reilly is going to be going in down on Lebanon Road beside Tractor Supply. If you've been by there, the old antiquated and outdated car wash that was there is one of those sort of self-serve kind of car washes. It's gone. It's been leveled, and they're doing site work as we speak for the new O'Reilly Auto Parts. I know it's not a real jazzy kind of business you get real excited about, but anytime anybody invests, $2.5 million to $3 million in your community and does some redevelopment to get rid of an old building, that's a good thing. The old Pier 1 location, if everybody remembers, they went out of business. I think they closed all of their stores across the country, and that is now an Advanced Auto Parts. For those that live in the Providence area and have been wanting to get auto parts, people have been asking for years. So it took a long time, but they've got that. Down at Hawks Landing, which was actually named after the Green Hill Hawks for the high school there. Hawks Landing has the new Pelican snowballs. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not. They've been trying to get here for years. They'll be opening up real soon. They're in the permitting process right now, and they're built out. So that's exciting. The ML Rose restaurant is going into the old Logan's restaurant, which I think I told everybody about that the last time. But if you've been by there, you've noticed how well the construction's coming, and also the addition and the remodel of the building. That's going to be a really nice addition to our community. And I can't mention the name yet, but there's a restaurant that's looking at the old bank location on the county line at Shiloh. If everybody remembers, there's a bank that's on the north side of the road right at the county line. It's been vacant for years. And there's a restaurant that's in Nashville that's looking at adding another location here in Mount Juliet. And one of the things that was changed recently was we had a 5-to-1 beer ratio, if everybody's familiar with that, which meant that basically you had to sell about 80% food and about 20% alcohol. And that's been reduced to where it's basically a 50-50 split, which is the same as what the state uses. So we're hoping that'll make it a little bit easier without allowing folks just to open up bars, I guess you'd say, that don't serve any food. So excited about that. Another business that'll be going in beside ML Rose is a business called Hyper Restore Wellness. That's a real nice boutique that'll be going in the remaining space that's in the old Logan's restaurant. So that's going to be a really nice business center there with the restaurant. So excited about that. We spoke to Mr. Nelson Andrews last week about the Cadillac dealer for the Paddocks development. And since I know that everybody on here owns Cadillacs, unlike me, I still have a 70 Pinto station wagon. But for y'all that have the Cadillacs, they are just another step closer to coming to Mount Juliet, which would be right beside Rocky Williams, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep there in the Paddocks development. And if you hadn't got a chance to meet Mr. Nelson Andrews, he's a very fine human being. His kids, to some degree, sort of grew up in Mount Juliet playing in various sports organizations. So he's very familiar with Mount Juliet. And so much so that he reached out recently and wants to make some type of contribution of some form to the Mount Juliet Little League, which was damaged in the floods recently. So we want to thank them. We also want to thank Two Rivers Ford, that's going to become the permanent park sponsor for the Little League Park on 70. So you'll probably see some naming rights in exchange for that. But Two Rivers Ford has been a blessing in our community as well. And they reached out recently to me, and then I put them in contact with Vice Mayor Ray Justice and then the Parks Board there for the Little League. So you'll see something coming on that real soon too. So we want to thank them for being so philanthropic and supportive of our community. And then there's 3 new gas stations. So if you lack for locations to get gasoline, if they all ultimately get approved and come to fruition, one is already under construction at Volunteer Boulevard, which is the road that basically takes you back to Under Armour. If you're familiar with that intersection where the tornado came through, right across the street from FedEx, on that corner, you've probably noticed some dirt moving, and that's because they're going to be putting in a nice new, they call them seed stores. So if you hear somebody say that, it's much more than just a gas station. It's going to be a really nice addition. And then there was another approved, of course, at Jackson Hills. That is approved. They just hadn't started construction. And that's more of a seed store that will eventually also be a complete retail center, but it's sort of neighborhood friendly. So it's not going to be your typical gas station. If you've ever said that there was a gorgeous gas station. The one right there at Jackson Hills is going to be a really nice looking gas station. So excited about that. That's going to be a good addition. And then this past Thursday at the Planning Commission, there was another nice seed store / retail center with a restaurant that's going to be going in, if approved on second reading and everything comes to fruition, right there at the corner of Lebanon Road on the Davis property, which is right at the corner of Golden Bear, or some call it Beckwith. If you're familiar with the pawn shop that's on Lebanon Road and the little gas station that's there, it'd be catty corner to that on the, I guess that would be the southwest corner. So didn't know if anybody had any question about that. Miss Davis owned that property for years and passed a few years ago, and that property was in a trust, and it's up for sale, and they've got a contract on it. So in dealing with the owner, I foresee that will happen, and I want to thank the staff and also the engineering team for working together. There were some concerns about traffic. If you've been through there, it's a little tough to make that right onto Golden Bear to get to the Mount Juliet High School when the traffic backs up, and that road will ultimately be widened. So we've partnered with the state and also our engineering department to make the ingress egress there safe enough to where people felt good about it. But that's going to be a great addition for the folks that traverse Lebanon Road or live in that immediate area. The Capital City Market, if everybody's familiar with that, that's on the corner of Lebanon Road and Mount Juliet Road. That's been there for, gosh, probably 40 years. The old building is very antiquated and in rough shape, and the owner of that building has been working hard to bring a nice new business to town. I can't name that business, but I can tell you that it is a fast casual restaurant. If everything gets approved, I know they're very excited about it, and I think that staff will work with them on their ingress egress issues. There would be a business on that corner, and then a business in between it and Slim Chickens, if you're familiar with that little area right there. So what's good about that is that the owner also bought the property behind it. So you'll have a road that goes behind Capital City all the way down to F&M Bank so that they can access that traffic signal. And so I think that'll be a great addition. It'll clean up that entire corner. And, you know, the sad thing is if this project was to not get approved or not come to fruition, somebody could simply open up the old Capital City Market again and put something in there and they'd have full access. So by going to a new business, they would have right in, right out only on Mount Juliet Road at 70. And that's to keep it safe so you don't have a lot of people trying to make that left-hand turn as you've witnessed happen in the past. So I'll pause there for a second just in case there's anybody's got any questions.
Kenny, you mentioned where the gas station is on by Volunteer. I know they're already working on the trailhead restrooms. Will you touch on that too?
Yeah, that was part of the Amazon project, which we're thankful for through Panettone, and part of the some of the upgrades where there was a series of traffic signals along Golden Bear, with one being at 40 and Golden Bear, that convenience station. But if you're on the east side of Golden Bear, you'll notice there's a new, pretty wide, probably a 10-foot wide paved greenway is what we like to refer to it, that ties in with a lot of our other greenways, including the one at Jackson Hills. And part of that was that they donated a little 5-acre tract, and on that tract there's a restroom facility and a parking area there. They'll have, you know, all the the curbing and the nice parking and all, so that folks that want to walk or bike can park there and then take the greenway and then come back, and also have a restroom facility for changing or for whatever. So if you've seen that little building directly across from Amazon and you wonder sort of what that is, that's what that is. So thanks for mentioning that, Mark. It's just another nice attribute for our community, and it's there for anybody to use, no matter where you live, because we want to encourage folks, of course, to get out and get some vitamin D. One thing good about this, with COVID still in place, is that, you know, exercising and being outside, and the weather's been absolutely beautiful lately. Matter of fact, it's probably been a little under, probably about 10 degrees under normal for this time of year. So hope I answered that okay, Mark.
Yep.
Yeah, but Amazon, of course, since Mark had mentioned that, the Amazon's come along really well. They've jumped from 1,000 jobs to probably about 3,000 jobs, and probably about half and half of those part-time, half of those full-time. But those things are so good for our county, so good for our community. I think it's an attractive building, and you know, for everything that they're able to give back, I think it's a benefit. And I think you'll continue to see a lot of international interest in our county. Not just in Mount Juliet, but if you go out through 840, for example, and you see all these companies that are out there, you know, in a lot of ways you just look at it and go, oh, there's these big warehouse buildings, and that's all they are. And there's so much more than that when you look at the technology that's involved. You think of the benefit to our school system. You think of the educational needs that these companies will have with technology in the future. And I'm blessed to have them. I know there's concerns with some of them with, how they change the landscape and things of that nature. But, in speaking of that, there will soon be a split off of another company that's already in Wilson County to create another satellite type, I guess you'd say, or totally separate company. It's very advanced technology. So we're very excited about that as well. And so you'll probably get some information on that in the coming months. That'll probably add about another 300 jobs to Wilson County and Mount Juliet. So we're tickled to have that.
I have a question with that.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I have a question that came into chat, but it came directly to me.
Yes.
Eddie Poole is asking about the property between Slim Chickens and Capital City Market. Is there something planned for there, or has it just been purchased?
Yes, it's been purchased, and there is something planned as well for both the corner and that lot between Slim Chickens. And I can't announce that particular thing or the other yet, but I can tell you one's a restaurant and one's not. And there's probably some rumblings on the street about what those things are. So some of you may know, but out of respect for the owner, I'm just, until they're actually approved, I'll just hold off. But yes, there is something approved for both of those, Marla, as far as through the owner. They just hadn't been brought to the planning commission yet.
Okay, thank
But I
you.
anticipate that to happen real soon.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's see, Dr.
Kenny,
Davis. I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Go ahead, finish up.
Just real quick, I was going to tell everybody that Dr. Davis, which is Kevin the son, Dr. Pete, and Dr. Mike, Dr. Pete and Dr. Mike have been in business for a long time. They built a beautiful new business on Charlie Downs Parkway. So if you've had an opportunity to see that, it's an absolutely gorgeous building. And I know they have other plans for their property on Mount Juliet Road. Folks ask about that a lot. And so if you've been up that way, you've probably seen the new building that's under construction. You got Dr. Davis's property, and you have Dr. Genevico's property as well. So hang in there. I think what you're going to see built up on Mount Juliet Road across from the middle school is going to be nice. And I'll let Dr. Wright talk here since I'm on that. Would it be okay now, Mark, to pause if Dr. Wright would like to speak?
That's a big one on there. Yep, we'll circle back.
That's probably the most exciting news ever.
Something coming down.
Yeah. Dr. Wright, could you tell us about the schools? I have a few questions I've had is if they're coming completely down or just partially and being rebuilt.
Well, I'm not going to sound cryptic. Try not to sound cryptic because we're waiting on the final documents, the signatures. And, that's been some of the things that has complicated this process as far as what the insurance company believed we were saying instead of actually asking us. And so we've been in a delicate dance and as whether we were allowed to repair or replace. And that was part of what was going on, Kenny, because they said we need to just repair and not replace the two buildings. So that's where we were. But looking at the two campuses, that as far as when you look at West Wilson Middle School, for example, when you look at the main structure, you've got a newer addition that's on the backside, what we refer to as the 800 wing, and it will not come down because it's not only in pretty good shape, it's one that we can recover. And there's about 24 classrooms in there, so that's critical to what we're doing. And then when you go back to the Stoner Creek Elementary School campus, you have the main building, and then you have the Phyllis Robinson Gymnasium, which, and it's one that I've used this as an example because I don't know how many of you have seen the video that we captured when the tornado came in. We had 16 cameras that were picking up on the West Wilson campus and watched it come across the hill and then watched the movement within the building. It's absolutely eerie. But there was a camera on the corner of the building facing the Mount Juliet Christian Academy campus that captured the tornado coming in, sweeping in, and you watch the Quonset hut roof from the academy sweep across the parking lot like a huge snail and then sweep back out, making, just incredible damage. But the gymnasium held. The floor lifted from the pressure. We're going to have tribute to Phyllis because, again, there must have been something with the namesake. the gymnasium stood, other than the floor lifting. So that will remain and will be critical as far as particularly with a solution we're coming up with. So main campuses on both sides, West Wilson Middle School, Stoner Creek, will come down and build
Thank you.
anew.
Thank you.
Well, I want to commend Dr. Wright on that as well, because for insurance issues that we deal with through city government, I can tell you, even property that we got damaged during the tornado and even here recently during the floods, it's a very arduous process. It takes a long time. There's a lot of moving parts, and I want to, and I know everybody has grown, it reminds you of the tornado when you see it, but they had to do what they had to do. I've had a lot of people call us. I said, you know what, it'll be what it'll be when it'll be. But I want to say this, kudos to the school system and Dr. Wright and all the teachers and all the staff, because to have gotten through this and had kids in school and all the moving parts it had to be. I also want to commend them for what they did for I think every teacher and every staff member recently. Well, I think it was some people call it a bit of a bonus. I call it a bit of a needed and well-deserved blessing. I want to thank them for that as well, for everything they've done for the teachers, because maybe unlike other places in the country, I think they've been rocking and rolling here nonstop since day one. And I can't even imagine trying to put all the moving pieces in place to make that happen at all the different schools and figure out where everybody's supposed to go. And from my perspective as a city manager, for what we see here at the city, I think it's been flawless. Of course, I'm not a parent anymore. I'm a grandparent. But from everything I've heard, nothing is ever perfect when you're doing something like this, but this is pretty darn close to it. So Dr. Wright, kudos, and thank you for that update. And it'll be exciting to see as this process moves forward.
And Kenny, let me add something, because it's something I had to explain over and over, because I mean, the criticism that was coming in that we were allowing that pile of rubble to sit there and that we weren't doing anything. And why were we waiting on the demo? Anything that we would have altered before we completed our negotiations with this insurance company, we would have bought it. I mean, that's that bottom line. If we put the first bulldozer on that property and knocked anything down, it would have been without their permission. I mean, you attributed much, you've worked with insurance companies, and so and it was, I don't even want to call it a delicate dance. I mean, it was really every week something, that we were having to negotiate. And bottom line, we were doing our very best not to have to go to the taxpayers and say, okay, we need to replace these schools. And until we get the funding, we can't do anything. And that in itself would have also negated any of the insurance negotiations as well. So I thank you for all this comment. And I thank everyone for their patience. There was no one that wanted to get a bulldozer out there more than I did. And I was going to drive it. And I am going to drive the first one. Not sure that I know how to negotiate it, but I'm going to get out there one way or the other. But I want to thank everyone for their patience. And again, we have to go back and be grateful and thankful that we didn't lose anyone.
Absolutely. Well said.
Thank you, Dr. Wright.
Yeah, we face the same thing when you talk about FEMA. You got to take pictures and documentations. We were even talking about, you name it, we were talking about it. So you're exactly right, Dr. Wright. And thank you so much for that update. And if Dr. Wright didn't have anything else, you want me just to continue on, so I don't want to keep anybody too long.
Well, everybody on here knows that public education in general, kind of really what defines a community and is really the grease that keeps everything sliding along. And we're very appreciative, and we are in a transition time. They've named a new director of schools upon the retirement of Dr. Wright, and I'm sure we'll have Mr. Luttrell on here, in the coming weeks. But that was a very transparent, very well-defined timeline, and it looks from the outside like you followed what you wanted to do, when you wanted to do it. And congratulations on a pretty drama-free process from what it looked like.
That's what we were hoping for.
Yeah, you got it. Hey, Kenny, I had someone ask me up beside the help center, dirt that they bulldozed all the trees, leveled it off. There's silk fencing up there and equipment. Can you share anything about that property? I think you're still muted, Kenny. Do you know which property? You know which property I'm speaking of?
Yeah, right there at Hatfield Lane, just up from the
That's
middle.
correct.
Yeah, they had a daycare that was looking at that, and I think the daycare is still somewhat interested, but they haven't made any final decisions. So we had been pressing the owner a little bit, I'll admit, from a city standpoint, because the house was pretty dilapidated. So to his credit, he went ahead and demoed the house for us. So they went ahead and started trying to make that site pad ready so that if they did find a user. So the silt fencing had to be put up simply because of that. And I think right now it's being used as a little bit of they're on pause right now to see if they can get a tenant. I can tell you there's people looking at that property. And so I look for something to happen with that pretty soon. Just know for sure tenants right now, but that's what's going on there right now. So would we love to see it develop? Absolutely, because the little house that was there, it served those people well for a long time, but it'd gotten really bad repair and it's beyond repair. Actually, it was pretty bad shape. So we appreciate them taking that down. And there's been some other houses around town. Miss Phyllis is familiar with, I think, at least one of those houses on East Division. The house was stately and we loved it in its heyday, but it had gotten bad shape and they took that house down. But that's what it is right now. They're just site prepping to get it more level with the road. Eventually that site will be almost up level with Mount Juliet Road. But I do anticipate you'll probably hear an announcement here real soon on somebody picking that site.
No, Gary Rabideau, I believe, had that property for sale just past Grace Unitas entrance. I think he's had it listed for maybe 7 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And finally closed that, I guess last week or late last week. So I think he'll probably have an announcement of the jobs and the plans for that site, because there's already a committed project there, as I understand it.
Yeah, and that site could actually be brought down, Mark. I know when you're talking about it, and everybody's familiar with it, right there by the old Grace Church, which is Camp Bow Wow now, just to the right or south of that, up on the hill. The only reason that hill is still there to this day is because there was a home on it when they widened Mount Juliet Road. But if this company, and Mark, I'm familiar with them, I reached out to them last week, and I'm hoping they'll call back on a timing. But I think they could bring that hill down. Whether or not they choose to do that and make it more level with the road will be up to them and engineers. But I'm excited about that as well, to see some development. Another thing that folks have been asking about is about the assisted living facility right there on Mount Juliet Road, just past Phoenix Builders and also Oak Hall subdivision. That is simply on pause. They've bought the land, they've got planning commission approval, and we can't wait for them to get started. But because of COVID and its impact on the assisted living facilities across the country, they've just sort of slow walking it right now. But that project will eventually come to fruition. I hate that because it's a big need in our county, and it's also will be a beautiful facility. And speaking of beautiful facilities, I was in a subdivision, Wright Farms, if you're familiar with that, off of Central Pike last week, and there was a little yard sale. And for whatever reason, y'all know I like junk. And so I couldn't help but stop and visit this sweetest little couple. And they have a beautiful house in Wright Farms. And I'm a talker, as you can tell. So I got to talking to them. Come to find out they're moving to Harmony Place, which is on Blenda Parkway. And the sweetest little couple. And I was so happy for them because I think she'd been a nurse and I think he worked in the insurance business for years. And their daughter was helping them price all the little stuff. But that speaks volumes right there when people believe so much in the county that they moved from what they thought was their forever home. And then they finally downsize and move into a place like Harmony Place. And everybody that's on here watching today, and anybody knows anything about Mount Juliet and Wilson County, it wasn't too many years ago that if you were going to stay somewhere like that, you had to go into Nashville and other communities. So it's so nice to see your community mature and grow and prosper to where our moms and dads can go to that next step in life and, and downsize a little bit. Me and my wife, for example, at that point where we're talking about trying to downsize, where you don't have as much overhead and you can finally start enjoying life like Dr. Wright. She's worked all these years, just like Miss Phyllis. Miss Phyllis, you were supposed to retire too, and you didn't. And I'm sure Dr. Wright's going to do the same thing because you ladies rock. But, it's just, it's exciting. It makes me feel good because I love having stuff like that here, and to have somebody come in and spend $45 to $50 million in your community to provide a service is pretty nice. So hopefully you'll see that real soon. And we have 2 new hotels, which everybody's familiar with. The Avid Hotel, which is being constructed across from Two Rivers Ford. And if you notice, it sits back behind where the St. Thomas building is, sort of in that general area. So all that frontage is still available, and there should be a medical office building starting soon out there on Blenda Parkway in front of that. And also there will be a wash and roll car wash for those that don't have a car wash in the Melinda City area or in Providence. There'll be one of those going in on the parkway as well. And those are nice. I think those new car washes where you just pay so much a month and come through as much as you want to is pretty handy. Enables you to keep your cars pretty clean without a whole lot of sweat equity. So I'm excited about that. And then you got the Hilton True brand, which is over sort of in the Providence Central area. And speaking of Providence Central, which is we're over where the Marriott and Hampton Inn and all that's at, you see the new Sport Ortho building that got constructed recently. We're excited to see that. And I met with the developers of Providence Central last week, and you should start seeing that $7 million of infrastructure go in real soon. And that's for the roads, Providence Trail and Adams Lane and all that realignment. The neat thing about that is there's no immediate plans to build anything over there right now, but putting that infrastructure in will draw attention from other developers, like office developers in particular, to be able to traverse that area and sort of get a general idea from a curbside or roadside view what their site would look like. So we're really excited about that. And then you've got Legacy Point, which is on Golden Bear Parkway. It's about an 85-acre development. I was talking to Mr. Seth McDowell recently, and they should be starting here real soon on that. So in a nutshell, without talking everybody to death, there's just a lot of great things going on in our county. We're extremely blessed. There's places throughout this country that if they got a ribbon cutting in a year, they'd be excited. And here it is, our county has them all the time. And so again, I'm excited about the new growth, but I just want to remember those businesses that's been here. For example, like the Candied Rib, they'll be going in across from the Mount Juliet Middle School and the old Pizza Hut location. And they're excited. That's a couple that started out basically in the food truck business. And if you've noticed some of their little Facebook posts, just a precious couple. And they're so excited about getting this opportunity to serve the citizens of Wilson County and Mount Juliet. So whenever they get open, which should be real soon, please remember to patronize them as well. But there's just so many good things going on, from home builders to townhome builders to retail to commercial to industrial to manufacturing, and most importantly, of course, our schools. And so I think we're pretty darn blessed, and I'm pretty proud of that and thankful. So Mark, I'll pause for a second just in case there's any questions.
I know I said something to you and Andy Barlow, but so others know as well. Tremendous, and I know it was a city project engineered. The added lane to turn north onto Mount Juliet Road if you're heading west on East Division Street, paved up in conjunction with the clock tower. Sidewalks, lighting, landscaping, much appreciated. And the traffic flow when school lets out is night and day different now that they're not all backing up because of one person that wants to turn right. So kudos to Public Works, Andy, everybody, yourself that worked on that. Very much needed, and it's working.
Yeah, speaking of traffic, you'll soon see 3 traffic lights, one at Curd, one at South Green Hill Road, and I'm drawing a blank one where the other one is. That'll be a big help. You'll also eventually see East Hill Street open up to Clemens Road, which will be nice if you conduct business here. You'll also soon see the clerk's office move from behind City Hall to the Little League Park down on 70, which is what's good about that is they'll have a whole lot more room, and the access there will be perfect because when they're open, the Little League Park is closed. And you'll also see a new turn lane added in front of Two Rivers Ford, so that for those folks that are utilizing Two Rivers Ford can get over into the turning lane and not block that eastbound inside lane. So just a lot of exciting things. I want to thank our Board of Commissioners because they have stepped up in such a big way. And when staff makes them aware of some concerns we've got, or if our elected body sees concerns, they're willing to tackle them and to basically put skin in the game. And that helps us a ton because, as everybody knows, you can't fix some of these things unless you're provided with the resources. And this commission has given us every tool that we could possibly ask for, including a new mini pumper fire truck. If you hadn't seen that out and about, or if you start seeing it, that is a lifesaver because those mini pumpers, just like all of our fire apparatus, they all have EMTs and paramedic equipment on those. So they can do just about everything you can do in addition to what an ambulance can do. The only thing they can't transport. But a lot of people's lives have been saved simply because of these firefighters and paramedics that we've got, that they're able to help people when they get there, even before they're transported by an ambulance. So this mini pumper, what it enables us to do is not have to take the bigger, larger, ladder trucks to these smaller fire calls. And plus, you've got a lot of people that they've got bridges across their driveway, some of these creek areas, so you can't get the big, large fire trucks back there. So to have this this mini pumper truck, which provided to us by the citizens and taxpayers in our elected body, is just a very vital piece of equipment that we're so thankful to get. And couldn't be prouder of our fire department, because what a lot of people don't realize is the majority of them are either EMTs or paramedics. They're cross-trained. And so one of them shows up and you go, well, what in the world is a firefighter doing here on a medical call? It's because they're able to also provide medical service.
That training program is brutal from what I can tell. Jamie Luffman brings them up to the chamber on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the meeting room, and that's where they're getting all their education. So I'm just kidding. We do get to see them regularly, and that's a committed group of fine young men and women. So thank you very much. I will tell everyone on here, you're making a difference. Been preaching for a long time, shop local, shop local, shop local, spend your sales tax here. There's a number of reasons, but that's got to be at the top of the list for the impact that you're having on our community financially. Just through January and February alone, sales tax collections are already a little over $1.6 million ahead of the same 2 months last year. So we can have nice stuff if we can afford it. We can do good things if we can afford it, and we can afford it if people will shop local and spend their money here in the community. So we beat that drum every single day. So it's making a difference. Thank you, everyone, for believing in it and spending your money where your heart is. So does anybody have any questions? There's a chat. Dr. Wright had to step out. We'll try to get her replacement on here one of these days. He'll be out on the speaking tour, I'm sure. But thanks to everybody that's tuning into the chamber. Thanks for your investment in the chamber. If we can help you at any time, don't have to wait on the next video call. Feel free to give us a buzz. And Kenny, one of these days, you can be live and large and in charge in the meeting room. We're ready to
I'm looking forward
start
to that.
transitioning back. How's that? So,
See all these beautiful and handsome faces again in person, except for this one.
There's a couple of donut shops in town that are waiting on us to start spending that money again too. So
right.
If nobody has anything else, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and keep your money local as best you can. And we will see you soon. Thanks for tuning
everybody.
in.